G'day and welcome to the Motley Fool series that we imaginatively call What I've Been Reading because it's about what the team's been reading. Anyway, it's really important because our team are thoughtful, smart and curious people and they are educators and sharers by nature. It's kind of what happens if you join the Motley Fool, right? Yes, we pick stocks. Hopefully we beat the market. That's certainly the aim and this bloke has done more than his share of that. But also too, we are here to help others become better investors, either by following the advice or simply learning a bit more about investing. So that's kind of where this series comes from. If you are reading a book and it's interesting, you kind of want to tell other people about it. Our guys, as I said, read a lot, none more than our Director of Research, Ryan Newman. Rhino, g'day.
G'day, Scott. Excited to be here.
Good, thank you. I figure you are the most read of our analytical team. I think I could probably say that without too much fear of contradiction. You get through a lot of reading material because you are insatiably curious and because you do want to try and make better investment decisions or just broaden your own horizons, right? A lot of what you brought to us in this series has come actually outside the realm, direct realm anyway, of investing books as such, and more about the broad life lessons that can be applied to our investing. So I'm fascinated to hear your views on this one. I've never heard of a book called Never Enough: From Barista to Billionaire by Andrew Wilkinson. So I guess I'll start by saying, tell us about the book.
Yeah, Scott, just before we started recording, you actually mentioned, from the sound of it, this might be a book about Starbucks.
Yes,
it's not. It's more, I guess, a personal, reflection of a former Canadian billionaire by the name of Andrew Wilkinson. Former billionaire doesn't sound quite as impressive as billionaire.
Yeah, that's right.
But surprisingly, that's a title that Andrew Wilkinson himself would be very proud to call himself, a former billionaire. And that's because he found that he was really striving to build to that title of having $1 billion. And that really gave rise to the title, I guess, of Never Enough. Because when he got there, he realized, hey, this isn't quite all it's cracked up to be. So I guess just to step back for a moment, Andrew Wilkinson, Canadian entrepreneur, he is the founder of a company called Tiny, which is listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange. And it's really an investment holding company. Right. I guess you really look at it kind of like Berkshire Hathaway, very focused on the small, profitable internet businesses. But it is very much inspired by Berkshire Hathaway. And I should say I own shares in that company. Andrew had a real fascination with Charlie Munger in particular. So Warren Buffett, particularly Charlie Munger, who is the late sidekick of Warren Buffett. And he really developed that long-term mindset, that hands-off approach to running this business, Tiny, which, as I said, does really gather all of these profitable long-term sort of tech operations. The book itself, though, it follows Andrew's journey from literally being a barista, in which case he was, as he was working, he was observing some of his longtime customers literally working from the tables, right. Web designing. And he's like, I want to get into that. That looks really cool. Having that freedom to do what you want, when you want, and to be able to do that on your own terms. Yeah. I guess it was through the .com bubble that he realized the flaws in that model, that, certainly when cash starts to dry up, it's not quite as easy to win web design work. And he really started to try to diversify his tech operations from there, which really led him down the path of leading that sort of investment lifestyle, which is when he really discovered Charlie Munger. But I guess for the purposes of the reading and the book itself, it was a surprisingly vulnerable and reflective book. It wasn't so much a how did I do this or how did I do that? It was more about the mindset, I suppose, that Andrew found himself in time and time again, that no matter what he had, it was never enough. So it wasn't it wasn't a book about bragging or look at me, look at what I've achieved. It was more an exploration, I suppose, of his discontent and the envy that he felt no matter how far he came. And I guess the main message then was that never enough is really capturing the central problem, that we're always striving for more as human beings. And I think there's a lot of investing lessons and non-investing lessons to take away from that.
There is so much there, mate. There's about 14 questions I have in my mind as you've been talking that I wanted to ask you, and I'll probably, for the sake of making this an hour-long conversation, leave most of them for others to discover as part of their reading of the book if they go and check it out. I guess the investing question probably is, obviously we're trying to generate and grow wealth. That's kind of the point, right? I mean, where do you think enough is? Or maybe the other question is, how do you avoid the never enough syndrome based on what you've read from Andrew Wilkinson?
I think one of the things that stood out for me is the hedonic treadmill. And that's that humans quickly adapt to higher levels of success and comfort. So let's say you've been really wanting to buy a brand new TV. You know, there's this 85-inch brand spanking new TV, and Scott, my wife can tell you I'm very guilty of this. I'm guilty of being on the hedonic treadmill, especially when it comes to a TV.
Yep.
But you had your heart set on this thing, and you buy it, and it's like, oh, now what? That's great. Why did I want this so bad? And I guess that's something that we experience through life as well, right? And you know, we experience it when we're trying to keep up with the neighbors. You know, the neighbors have a new car, or the neighbors have a brand new house. We always are striving for more and more and more. And I think there's a lot of takeaways from this. But I suppose the big thing, or the big takeaway for me, was it really brought me back to the reason why we constructed one of our portfolio services, which is North Star. It's a service that I run. North Star is really encouraging members to ask the question, why am I investing? What am I trying to get out of this? It's not, for me, certainly, and I think for a lot of our members as well, it's not about trying to put on an extra zero at the end of our net wealth. It's not about trying to put on an extra 3 figures at the end of our net wealth. It's really trying to figure out, why am I investing? What am I trying to build towards? Am I trying to give my kids a better future? Am I trying to give back to the community? Am I trying to become charitable and build homes for some international people who aren't as lucky as we are? And we've had members in the past who have done that as well, by the way. Yeah. They've put their wealth towards doing those sort of things.
Yeah.
I think it's about asking that question and reminding ourselves, why are we doing this? And not letting the dollars purely the dollars lead our investment decisions, but rather get meaning from it. And I think that's something that Andrew Wilkinson was really trying to detail as well, that he was trying to find meaning in his life, meaning in the why of what he was doing. And I think it taught him a lot of lessons. And again, taking it back to the start of this conversation, one of the reasons that I think he would be proud to call himself a former billionaire than he would have been to call himself a billionaire.
I like that a lot. The hedonic treadmill and the rat race aren't that dissimilar, right?
Yeah.
There's the old line about no one on their deathbed wish they'd spent more time in the office. I guess from my view, mate, just listening to you talk, it's also that thing about how much risk we're taking with our investing and where we want to get to. And that kind of idea of like getting rich slowly, or getting a bit rich slowly versus trying to get really rich quickly and maybe risking the whole lot, maybe blowing the whole lot up. It's just being measured in the way we accumulate that wealth. It's the old story too of, the costs always expand to fill the paycheck, right? When I was on a fraction of what I'm earning now, when I first left school, I was working at a grog shop full time after uni. And I couldn't spend all the money I had. I was living at home. I was driving an old car, and I just had more money at the end of the week. I could have done it, but I didn't have that many needs and wants. And a couple of decades, a certain number of decades later, I find myself, you can spend the whole paycheck if you want, because you just go, well, I'd like that thing, and I've got the money, so I'll spend it. And you kind of look back and go, man, how did I go from here to there? And the answer is that hedonic treadmill you talk about, and being able to make your peace with that, I think is a really, really important thing. Not trying to keep up with the Joneses, all the stuff that goes with that, really, really important. Mate, thanks for bringing Never Enough to our viewers. Thanks for sharing it with us. We will put the link in the description below this video, so if you are wanting to check that out, that's probably an Amazon link normally, so do that. You find it all good booksellers, of course. Mate, thank you for sharing Never Enough, and until next time, full on.